All right, I just finished my final workout for phase 2 of 80-day obsession. This makes it the 50th workout that we have completed as a group. So we only have 30 more workouts left, which is incredible. I've been really focusing on really building the right habit and having this pattern of every day checking in, having somebody to be accountable to, has really helped reinforce this habit that I've tried to create for 5.5 years. And that is working out regularly, empowering my mind and really being self-aware of my habits. I have really achieved so much because of the last 50 workouts that we've done, because Autumn really works hard on helping us through the struggles. I noticed that on Saturdays when we do the same workout, which is called cardio flow, which is unlike any type of cardio workout I've ever done, I struggled with it, and I truly believe it's because we're kind of on our own, because they're pre-recorded. They do a double workout on Friday, and so I'm kind of at my own on my own time frame, and so I need to really focus on the last phase, getting in a habit and a routine of picking my time to work out. So getting up, staying in a routine on the weekend is really imperative, so you don't get off track. And also I thought that when I do a lot of my thinking when I'm working out, but I really thought about how on Saturdays we know this workout. Like, it is the same workout every Saturday. Phase 1, 2, and 3, there's a little variation of how many reps we do at the end. It was 4 the first month, 6 this month, and 8 the next month. But I realized that because I know it's coming, I know the sequence, I know how much longer it's going to be, my mind starts wandering. And that's been the biggest gift about this program, is you don't know from day to day how the program is going to go, but on Saturdays you do. And also, since this is being filmed live, there's no timer, so there's no looking at the clock and being like, oh God, there's another 30 minutes left or another 5 minutes left. Because I would almost bet that if you've done a workout where you look at the timer, your mind starts really working against you the last 5 or 10 minutes. You're like, I've already done enough. I'll look at my Fitbit, like, oh, I burned 300 calories, I'm good. And that's something that I've even shared about my sobriety journey. The first year was pretty simple. The second year has been a challenge, because I'll be like, oh, well, I went this long, maybe I'm okay. And your mind starts rationalizing it. So it's been a real gift not having a timer. But I've been talking a lot about binge urges and about how our brain works recently, and I wanted to basically, continue educating everybody on that. Yesterday I talked about procrastination. That really has nothing to do with your work ethic or even about work. It's a coping mechanism, and it's something that oftentimes, if you're not really focused on it, it just becomes a habitual thing to procrastinate anytime you're stressed. And the one thing that I've learned through therapy, really studying the brain, being more self-aware about myself, is that a lot of times these things can happen where basically like your brain's on autopilot. And a lot of people really beat themselves up over these things, and that's one thing that I was talking about yesterday about overcoming procrastination. One of the steps is you have to forgive yourself and not beat yourself up over it. So if you are falling into binge eating, overeating, procrastination, whatever it is that you're doing, there's definitely, with every vice, with every addiction out there are certain steps you can take to overcome it. But a lot of times, understanding how your brain works, that sometimes when you have something that happens, your brain goes into autopilot, something happened. Like, for instance, when you're overeating, like something happened, because so many people talk about, being an emotional eater, a stress eater, that when something happens, your spouse pisses you off, you're stressed about a workload at work, your finances, are a mess, whatever it is, and you go and grab some crap food, and you just stuff your face, and then you feel like this temporary like emotional band-aid. You feel good at the time. Well, that is signaling to your brain that is your coping mechanism, that is the go-to when something happens. So a lot of times it's just about conditioning your brain. And you have to forgive yourself that, you know, I'm not going to say, oh, your brain takes over and it's not your fault and you can't help what you're doing. But once you understand that you're not a bad person, you've not got faulty emotions, that it's really just a habit and that you need to just change your routine around, it makes it a little easier. But you need to forgive yourself instead of like staying in this self-loathing state, and understand that one time something happened and you turn to, whether it be food, whether it be alcohol, whether it be, you know, whatever self-destructive behavior it is you've used as a coping mechanism, that once you did that, it became a habit and your brain started linking up and you went on autopilot, that the next time it happened, you automatically went to that. And your brain does go on autopilot. I'll give you an example. When my kids have switched schools, you know, when they've advanced to the next school, that first week of school, I'm like on autopilot driving to their old school. And one time actually I did that and Rebel's like, Emily doesn't go to that school, Mom. She goes over here. And that is just our brain being stuck in habits. And that is something that I've had to overcome with drugs, with alcohol, with all these things, is just creating a new routine and understanding that my brain formed, you know, a habit of anytime something happened, linking it up to that. And you can change that at any point in time once you change your pattern, once you interrupt your current pattern. And when it comes to overeating, there is, you know, science behind the fact that most of the foods that people overeat on, like, you know, sugars or carbs, they're just like a drug that they release serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, and it becomes an addiction. And so you have to understand, number one, your emotions. You have to be self-aware, but you also have to understand the chemical reaction, the way your brain works, and that some of these things can feel out of your control until you understand it. And like I said, forgiveness is the biggest thing, and you need to realize that you're not weak. Because I know a lot of people can be like, well, this person has problems and stress and they don't overeat. It's because they hadn't conditioned themselves to use food as a coping mechanism. Maybe they were instilled with different coping mechanisms from childhood. Maybe they overcame it, but it doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're less able to overcome this. You just have to understand how your brain works. And a lot of times, you know, we do the best we can with what we have, and it's just about breaking patterns, you know, that have been reinforced. So anyways, I wanted to just share that with you because I hear all the time from people that I don't think that they can break free from, you know, whatever their pattern is that's keeping them in the state that they're in, that's not bringing them happiness or serving them. And really, you know, if you're dealing with overeating or binge drinking or doing something that's very unproductive, you need to look at the fact of like, what's your trigger? You know, is it when you get stressed? Is it when you go and visit your parents? Is it when you get to work? Whatever it is, there's always going to be a trigger, and then being able to pinpoint that and then having a plan to mix up that pattern and do something different. And that's going to set in stone a change in your habits where you're going to be able to slowly move away and, you know, replace that bad habit with a better habit. And, you know, that's all that is habits can be replaced with something else. And it really takes self-awareness, forgiveness, and also, you know, somebody to provide a different perspective and just really not beating yourself up over this, but also giving yourself a timeline of how you're going to make these changes and, you know, come about it gradually. If you're trying to overcome like a, you know, you're 30 years old and you've been overeating since you were a teenager, it's not going to be fixed overnight, but it can be with slow, gradual change. And by replacing certain routines, certain rituals, by really holding yourself accountable. So anyways, I hope this has helped. I hope you have a good Saturday. I'm really excited about starting to share with you next month, or from Monday, the final month of 80 Day Obsession.